the virus might.
So if it's a laboratory-made virus, it will not be affected by any temperature.
By any temperature.
Yes, that is also one of the theories.
India crossed even China.
Yeah, yesterday we crossed China.
Dr. Kumar, should we start?
Yes, please do that. We should start.
Okay. So I welcome all the participants and our eminent speakers for the discussion today. Before we the session today, I have a few requests to be made to all the participants. During the entire duration of the discussion, I request you all to kindly put your mute and keep your videos off. And you please also not to try present your screen, and only the video and audio of the speakers will be available for you. And if you have any questions to be asked to the panelists, kindly submit your queries on the chat box, and all these queries will be raised to the respective panelist at the end of the session during Q&A. And with these words, I would request Dr. H.P. Kumar, former CMD NSIC and Director External Affairs, Power to SME, to kindly begin the session. Sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Zubair. Thanks a lot. Good afternoon to all the distinguished participants and also the eminent speakers that we have today. Let me welcome and acknowledge the presence of our distinguished speakers for our today's webinar. We have Mr. Rajkiran Panagala, who is the Group Head Business Development at Transport Corporation of India. I will introduce him in detail later when I invite him for the address. We have Mr. Sumit Bhatia, who is the Senior Vice President of Business Operations, Power to SME. And we have Ms. Sudha Sareen, who is the Senior Vice President, Marketing and Communications. We have other distinguished guests who have joined this program. We have Mr. L.K. Pandey, the Chair IIA Delhi, who is the Chapter Chair IIA Delhi. Then we have Mr. Ajay Singh, Director IIA Delhi, and we are joined by, I'm told we are joined by Chapter Chairman of IIA Ghaziabad, IIA Noida, and IIA Greater Noida. So we welcome you all. First of all, before I give my opening address, I would like to invite Sudha ji, Ms. Sudha Sareen, Senior Vice President, Power to SME, to apprise about this webinar and also the Power to SME, the company which has really done wonders in the country in raw material aggregation, distribution, and supply chain management. Over to you, Ms. Sudha Sareen.
Thank you, Kumar sir. I'd like to welcome all panelists, Kumar sir, Sumit Bhatia.
Sudha ma'am, you are muted. Sudha ma'am, you need to unmute yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I've unmuted myself. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome all our panelists, Kumar sir, Mr. Sumit Bhatia, Mr. Rajkiran. We appreciate their time, and I'm sure we all look forward to today's deliberations, especially after Modi Saab announced that self-reliance and increasing manufacturing and the importance of supply chain is really what is going to help our factories roar back to life. I do hope that today's deliberations will shed some light on how can SMEs manage this new normal. We've all been hit by an unprecedented crisis. Nothing could have prepared us for it. There is no rule book that exists. There is no crystal ball that we can look at and say this is what we need to do. Leadership across is trying to understand and trying to determine which is the best way forward. We as Power to SME have done a series of webinars with some wonderful partners, and some of them we've done ourselves. IIA has been one such partner which has been tremendous in their outreach support with us. And we've done about 15 webinars so far. We may have with about an attendance of 100 odd attendees per webinar. We've touched obviously a fairly large number. We will continue to do this to throw insight and light to our SMEs. I'd also like to take some time to just introduce us very, very briefly. We're an 8-year-old company, Power to SME. Our investors are Kalari Inventors, Nandan Elkeni, IFC, to name a few. Our founder is Mr. R. Narayan. Power to SME is largely focusing on supply chain and trying to see how we can procure raw material for SMEs at best prices. Along the line, we've introduced a few other brands of ours. One of them is Finance Me, which works with NBFCs to offer working capital loans. And the other is SME Shops, which is an MRO goods supplies. And now we've entered into COVID products. So anybody who's manufacturing COVID products here, please feel free to connect with us. We are supplying to fairly large enterprises. We also have an NBFC called Aurelius, and we work under its brand name BizFunds. Our focus has always been to try and see how we can strengthen the entire SME ecosystem, and all our attempts and our brands address that. I'd like to welcome everyone and throw the floor open for discussion. Thank you once again. Kumar Sab, over to you.
Dr. Kumar, you need to unmute yourself, sir.
What I feel that
How do I get muted? I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Sudhaji. It is a wonderful presentation. Power to SME has come up to be a great company in the country. It's a World Bank funded, startup, almost 8 years old now, and providing raw material support and other supply chain management issues to the SMEs in the country. Also, other products like working capital financing and SME shops. So you should get in touch with the Power to SME at local level, at regional level, wherever you are, to get the benefit of the competitive, products and supplies from Power to SME. Well,
Hello, there is no voice.
there is no
You
voice.
hear me?
Dr. Kumar, we can.
Am I audible?
Yes, very much, sir.
Somebody is saying there is no voice.
He's Dr. Pandey, LK Pandey. He might be.
Pandey, are you able to hear me? Pandey ji, sunai de raha hai? Anyway, if I am audible to others, let me continue. So today we are in fact deliberating on the issue as to what is going to happen with regard to raw material availability and supply chain post COVID-19 when we are going to open up. As we all know, the lockdown has created tremendous difficulties for all of us personally and also all the businesses in the country, across regions, across sectors, across products, everywhere. In fact, the people are so dried up now and facing so much difficulty that it requires a lot of courage even to open the factories with the current situation that is prevailing and the lack of confidence that they are having now. While some incentives have been announced, some relief measures have been announced by the Government of India, but on the face of it, people are not taking it very, not accepting it as if everything will be comfortable after this relief package. So they have lost a lot of time. In fact, the problems with regard to their liquidity, the stoppage of revenue, stoppage of orders. There are no orders as of now until they go back and work out again. Since there are no orders, the production also is stopped. Something was there in the process which they might probably are they're thinking of restarting, and as of now they have just gone and started cleaning and starting to maintain the factories, and so that they are ready to in fact come up with normal operations when the normal functioning starts. But with the conditions that are imposed by the government for reopening also, a lot of preparation has to be made with regard to checking, social distancing, reduction in staff, and other arrangements, timings, transportation. All these things require a lot of arrangement. And with reduced number of staff, reduced number of workers, when we talk to the people, they say, how are we going to run our entire processing plant? Because that requires 50 people. If you have only 25 people, how are they going to work, and how is the production going to be finished? So all these problems, and then on the top of that, availability of inputs is another issue. Raw material availability, one of the key factors which will determine the restarting of the operations, whether that is possible, successfully being done or not. Because big plants also stopped working to a great extent, and the supply chain got completely disrupted. So restarting the operations will be a challenge, if not impossible. So we are going to discuss these issues today. In fact, Government of India recently announced some measures. The most important being 3 lakh crore worth of lending from banks, which is a guaranteed lending by Government of India. That's a very welcome step. In fact, banks will have to give 20% of the sanction limits, outstanding of the companies and SMEs, which was outstanding on 29th February 2020. So 20% of that will be given as additional credit limit, which will be recovered in 4 years with a 1-year moratorium. Of course, the rate of interest is normal rate of interest, which the banks have been charging, 9.25% or whatever the existing rate of interest the banks will be charging. So that's a great facility because no additional collateral and all that security is required. And since the companies, SMEs have already been banking with the banks, they have their credentials established already, whereabouts, all these background checks already done. So it's only the documentation which they will have to do and get the additional facility. It will improve quite a lot their liquidity position, so that they are in a position to purchase raw material and start the operations, and of course meet the other liabilities also. So that is one facility which the government has given, which is going to give good relief. And the other announcement regarding 50,000 crore fund of funds for participating in equity issues of SMEs when they come up on the stock exchanges. That is basically a distant reality. It will come up later because it's only 10,000 crore fund that the government is setting up, and remaining 40,000 crore will be tapped from daughter funds. What they have said is mother fund and daughter's funds. Now daughter funds are nothing but funds in the private sector, where they will have a combination of daughters funds, the private sector funds, and the government funds to make a complete big corpus of 50,000 crore. Now I don't know how the whole thing is going to work, but the earlier fund of funds, which was established in 2016, 10,000 crore fund of funds for funding the startups and small venture funds, ventures which were to be set up. That experience has not been good because only a very small amount of that fund of funds has been utilized. The operational methodology which that fund of fund adopted was also not very good, because what they said was that private sector funds, venture funds, angel funds, would be eligible to get some money from that other fund, this fund of funds, 10,000. Now, if you have a fund of say 900 crore, you can get 100 crore or 50 crore from that, other fund. Now, if you get 50 or 100 or 20 crore from other fund and you have your own 90 crore or 80 crore, so naturally your criteria and methodology and assessment and selection of the ventures or enterprises would remain the same, because you are not going to change just because you have been given 5 crore or 2 crore from the government or from the mother fund. So in nutshell, this is going to somehow provide some fillip to the setting up of the new funds, so that they can participate in the equity when the listing is done by SMEs. But not, it's not, I don't feel that it is going to play a very major significant role in promoting the equity culture among the SMEs so that they can come in large numbers. As we understand, there are 38,000 SMEs which are at the higher end of the MSME sector. They are small, they are medium, and also the larger small enterprises. Now 38,000, I think I am pretty sure that at least 3,000 to 4,000 SMEs at the larger segment would be surely eligible to create more value by going for the stock exchange listing. So as of now, it's only 550 companies which have listed. So it's not much, although 7-8 years have passed since 2012 when the stock exchanges came up. So that is another measure which the government of India has announced, and it's that let us see how it works in the time to come. There are some more measures for NBFCs and partial guarantee for stressed and NPA accounts, worth 20,000 crore of fresh lending by banks under the Credit Guarantee Trust Fund, for which 4,000 crore will be provided by the government of India. I think this is a good measure, but the amount is very small, 20,000 crore for the entire country, to give relief to the entire number of stressed SMEs and NPS. So this will be a very small fraction of what is the actual need. I don't know how many units will be able to get the benefit, but if the experience is successful of implementing such a scheme, I think it's a new product, it's a new model, because they call it as a subordinated debt. Subordinated debt means the banks will give loans to individuals, the proprietors, partners, directors of those stressed companies. And those partners, directors and proprietors have to invest as a capital, fresh capital in their companies. So for the company, it will be a capital, but banks will give it as a loan to the partners and directors. It's a personal loan basically. But ultimately, if it is going to help the stressed assets and help revival of the SMEs, the stressed SMEs and the NPA SMEs, I think it's a good experiment which should be implemented. And over a period of time, might be, if it becomes successful, 20,000 crore might be increased to another, some big amount. This will benefit, in fact, not only the SMEs but also the banking sector also, because NPAs and stressed would be converted into standard accounts. So that's a good measure. It's a good formula. I mean, it's an innovative model of financing, which was not there earlier. Subordinated debt to revive the stressed and NPA accounts. Then there are other measures, but the one major important, change which the government of India has brought through this package is that change in the definition of MSMEs. Now, while on the one hand, and there is a mixed reaction to this change. Some people are saying it's good, some people are saying it's not very good, even it might really dent even the existing prospects of the existing SMEs also. Because what they say is that although your investment limit has gone up from like 5 crore to 10 crore for small and 10 crore to 20 crore for medium, but by capping it at a certain turnover of 50 crore for small and 100 crore for medium, you have virtually in effect what has happened is that the objectives with which you bring out these changes have have been nullified, because the moment you say you can't exceed 100 crore and you will go into a large corporate, people will not like to expand to beyond 100 crore and might, like to even split the companies, which was happening earlier. So it is not even, not meeting the objectives, but even denting the existing prospects of the SMEs. Because as of now, if you have a turnover of less than 10 crore, you are medium, but without any turnover limit. You can have turnover of 500 crore, 600 crore, 200 crore, 300 crore also, and still be in the SME category. So there is whereas the micro enterprises, which constitutes the major, component, major segment of the entire MSME sector, they feel they are probably, they are happy. They have been given a better deal because their investment limit has been increased to 1 crore. But 5 crore again, a turnover limit for them also is not, not very welcome initiative, because if you invest 1 crore in plant and machinery, you have other land and building and other infrastructure, furniture, fixtures, and other, like generators and electrification and IT equipments and research and development. There's a lot of other land and building, which is quite a big investment. So 1 crore investment in plant and machinery can be 2 crore, 2.5 crore as the total investment in the SME. So with 2 and 2.5 crore of total investment, if you say you can achieve only 5 crore of turnover, it's a probably a restriction, unnecessary restriction of the SMEs for micro enterprise, even micro or small, whatever. Because in small also, if you have 5 crore plant and machinery, your total investment might be 10 crore. And with 10 crore, you are allowed only 50 crore turnover. 10 crore and 10 crore plant and machinery, and another 10 crore means 20 crore investment. You have only 50 crore turnover, which is not enough even to generate your own return of 10%. So all these reactions have come from the industry. We have been talking to the industry of all over the country, from various chambers and associations. So some representations have also been made to the Finance Ministry and Government of India to review these decisions. Let us see what happens. But as of now, the larger enterprises in the small and medium sector are not very happy about this change in the classification. So with these observations, initial observations, I feel that the time is going to be a little difficult for the SMEs to restart operations. And let us examine and analyze how is our SME sector going to perform over a period of time. So we have our distinguished experts today to discuss on this issue of raw material and supply chain. Raw material and supply chain, of course, are very important factor for restarting the operations, which is key to new normal post-COVID. So what is going to be the new normal with these limitations and the restrictions? Let us discuss that, and let us have the opinion of the experts. First of all, I would like to invite Mr. Raj Kiran Kanagala. Mr. Raj Kiran is the Group Head Business Development at Transport Corporation of India since 2006. He has almost 14 years experience in supply chain, logistics and transport operations. He is also heading projects, strategy and growth initiatives within the areas of technology, branding, innovation, marketing, sourcing. So he is the best person, in fact, to tell us as to what is going to be the scenario with regard to availability of raw material as well as the supply chain, logistics, etc. in the post-COVID. So I'll request Mr. Raj Kiran to take over and give us his opening address. Mr. Kiran, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, please carry on.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Kumar, and good afternoon to all the fellow panelists. And thanks to Power to SME for inviting us on this important session for the MSME sector. And thanks to all the participants for joining. I've got a presentation, quick 3-4 slides. So I'll request Zumair to just put it up. So while the presentation is being put up, as you can see, I am fully dressed up for the pandemic. So I'm wearing a mask, and this is what the new normal is, that we all will have to don this makeup. So this is going to be the makeup, and soon we might wear designer masks also. So let us be prepared for that. We are all in office. So this is what we're going to do now soon, all of us. So Zumair, can you move to the first slide, please? Thanks. So I'd like to start with a quote, which when things were going very tough for all of us, we as logistics and in the transportation field, we were active trying to move essentials for the whole country. And one thought came about was what Lenin said, that there are sometimes nothing much happens through decades. And in the last few weeks, you all would agree that decades seem to have turned around, and so much is going through in our mind in terms of the fear out of pandemic. So fear of life, I think we are seeing it in front of us playing out. I don't know anybody has seen it before so openly and vividly playing out. And the fear of economic downturn and the kind of news you hear with respect to jobs, salary cuts, and the economy per se, it sounds very tough. But the whole idea, I think, of the panel and everybody out in India is that let's be positive and let's see what are the challenges and how we can face. So these slides, what I'm going to present is going to be what are the challenges and how do we face it? What are the takeaways? So I'd request Zumair to put up the slide again, please.
That's the one, sir.
Zumair, the slides, please.
Can you view the slide, sir?
No, it's not visible. You were on it. I think somehow it got lost.
Here you were showing the slides, they were visible.
Just hold on, sir, please.
Yeah, thanks, Zumair. So if you see this carefully, we all have spoken that the entire supply chain, right from the raw material side to the finished goods to the stock in the shelves, more or less everything is disrupted. Very soon we're going to see that a lot of supplies of even essential products are not going to be there because the manufacturing, the MSMEs who supply to the large manufacturing companies all have more or less closed or have run skeletal operations. So that's going to be a big challenge when the lockdown slowly opens up. Later, because of this slowdown, you're going to see a demand contraction. So after 3 to 6 months, when we try to settle in, you'll start seeing that the demand will fall. So initially you'll have a lot of disruptions, and then by the time you settle down and start facing the new normal, you're going to face a demand contraction. This is widely predicted by a lot of experts. So obviously going to be the midst of a lot of disruptions. So we need to gear up accordingly. Next slide, please. So what are the macro changes happening? Can you click once? Just click the button, arrow button, Zumair. Yeah. Thanks. So one of the things is that because of the angst against China, which is extremely, everybody is being vocal about it, we might see domestic sourcing increase. We ourselves are seeing a lot of people who want to make it in India, sort of make in India is going to grow. We are also seeing is that the multimodal transportation is being asked for. So people who are predominantly on road. So a number here is that India's logistics spend still around 60 to 65% is on road, and our share of multimodal is far lesser. Rail is around 30% and 5% or less than that is the combination of air and coastal. So that's going to go up because people don't want to touch the cargo much. They want a container to move around because that's part of safety. and people also want alternate modes, because road now the costs are going to go up. Obviously you all know there's a shortage of drivers and laborers, so the cost in the interim, I would request all our MSME companies to take note of it. It's going to go up by at least anywhere between 20 to 40% in certain lanes. At the same time, there are 2 points which we are all going to see, because we're going to gear up for another lockdown. Might be another, you know, might be outbreak of a pandemic. People are going to increase the safety stock of raw materials. So if I was buying X and X inventory days were there, you're going to end up with X plus might be 25% extra, because you're going to end up with more inventory to take care of any such lockdowns. Obviously, then the warehousing requirement or storage requirement is going to be on the increase. So that's something going to. You try to see how you're going to replace certain aspects of your global sourcing. So we are all dependent on China, certain technologies from Europe and USA. You're going to see if you're going to go localized, but it's going to take time. Nothing is going to happen overnight. You cannot replace China. Let's be very clear about it. It's going to take time, but some components at least is going to be localized, and we'll put our effort. I think PPE kits, PPE material, what we have done in India is a classic example of the way India is turned around. The most important is, how does a business itself ensure that it is viable and sustainable as a enterprise, as a company, whether it is a micro or it is a medium enterprise. You're going to start looking at risk assessment, certain investments, certain loans, whatever government is offering. You're all going to talk of financing more, and that's going to be important, because that's going to keep your supply chain going. So a supply chain element is also the way you're going to look at your finance, and I think Power to SME having a finance to portal also is very critical. Next slide. So how do we face it? So I think the government spoke about being self-reliant. We say reinforce, reinvent, and build resilience. Resilience is extremely critical, but how do you build resilience? Easier said than done. We're all afraid of our lives. We're all afraid of the economy. So the first is, when you're in a plant, or when you're dispatching your goods, or when a truck comes in, or whenever you're doing anything with respect to the supply chain, can we automate it? Can we reduce the touch points? Can we bring in some amount of mechanization? That's going to be critical. Digitization, lot is being said. We all are in the era of Uber and Swiggy, but can a MSME also do it? I think so this is somewhere Power to SME can be helping. uh, Payment gateways will help, payment wallets will help, government UPI will help. We need to adopt it. We don't have a choice, because if we don't adopt these things, we are not going to be ready for the new normal, as they say. I've spoken about automation. Lot of sanitization is going to happen. It's increase the cost. We are seeing that when we have been operating throughout this lockdown period, when you're operating at 25% manpower, 33 or 50%, you still need to follow immense amount of sanitization of the premise, of the handling, the cargo, the paper, the people. So many external people walk into your premise. That's a cost. That's a monitoring. That's a risk to your business. This is to be extremely detailed, and you need very strong managers to lead this. This cannot be led at the ground level. It is literally now, we believe, a board matter, a owner matter in the case of a MSME, a proprietor matter. This cannot be less, have the juniors to decide on the sanitization norms. Lot is being spoken, so we should implement that. And omni-channel procurement, because you're going to look at not one source, you're going to de-risk, which I told earlier. You need multiple sources, suppliers if it's possible, and we need to adopt that, so that you are not hit if your supplier is hit. So that's going to be critical. So you also, if you are as a MSME supplying to someone, you need to be sure that even if you had a 80% share, somebody is going to take your share, because the large companies are going to de-risk. So that's going to happen. And of course, compliances and protocols by government, state, local, associations is all going to come in. Next slide, please. So as we grapple the largest issue of our lifetimes, the one thing is going to be there, that there is a time to transform. If ever we wanted an excuse, typically हम बोलते हैं कि हम मुहूर्त ढूंढते हैं कि कभी कुछ change करना है. So we don't need a Murat. Isse acha situation, you're not going to get it. There's a time to transform your sourcing, relook at it. Don't change for the sake of it. Relook at the way your logistics is done, relook at multimodal, and relook at digitizing your operations and having minimal touch points. So it's very, very critical, especially where there's a lot of labor. You still need to employ them. That's our duty to have all our labor employed. But at the same time, give tools to them so that they are safe and you are safe. Next slide, please. Finally, the takeaways. Adapt. We are all used to the words agile, but now is a question of adapting, because you need to sustain your business. If you don't sustain your business, you're not going to be there to face the next pandemic or anything else. You need to adapt. Digitize. But when you say digitize, one request to all the people who provide digital solutions, even when we are doing something, it has to be a SaaS based. It has to be something which is affordable, because you're going to digitize right from your raw material procurement to your finished goods supply to your customers to the payments. It has to be affordable. If not, you're going to face issues, because you can have the best technology but you can't pay for it. The product cost increases. It doesn't help. And digitization will also help you for exports, because we want to replace a lot of other players who are typically exporting. Might be our MSME sector, which is the largest contributor to exports, will benefit by digitizing the supply chain also. And we all are there. A lot of people are digitizing their offerings to the entire industry. Multimodal, I already spoke up on that. And finally, it's the last sentence, but the most important for us as human beings, if we are there, we're going to ensure that the economy runs well and we'll come out of this with our resolute resilience. We need to be safe, we need to be sanitized, and we need to take care of ourselves and our entire ecosystem where we stay. So with this, I end the brief introduction. Thank you very much for listening out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajkiran. Very well articulated. I think the issues that you raised in your presentation are really very important. I am sure everybody realizes that the domestic sourcing is going to increase as compared to the imports. Am I audible, Zumair?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. So domestic sourcing is surely going to increase, as you rightly predicted. Make in India is going to grow. Make in India products are going to be in demand now. A lot of products which were being imported earlier, the lists are being made so that the government can start providing, recognizing these products, and the companies are also working very fast to grab these opportunities which are on the way. Now, multimodal transportation, as you rightly mentioned, is the natural, way of progressing, because road transportation is taking the maximum space as of now, and warehousing space, of course, is going to increase, and the companies are going to have more safety stock because of the uncertainties involved. As you rightly mentioned, the automation and digitization are going to be the key, factors in success of any enterprise in future. So thank you very much, Mr. Rajkiran. I'll come back to you after some time. We have our another expert, speaker from Power to SME, Mr. Sumit Bhatia ji. He is the Senior Vice President of Business Operations and a member of key management personnel and senior management team of Power to SME. In fact, he's spearheading the operations of Power to SME for raw material aggregation and distribution with supply chain management, etc. He has also introduced, let me say, I have seen him, he has also introduced various innovative models of raw material marketing, which have done a great job, in fact, for great benefit for the SME sector in the country.
It seems Dr. Kumar has some connectivity issues. So over to you, Sumit sir.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Zumair. Good afternoon to all the participants. So before I address the key question regarding how the raw material procurement plays a key role for the SME manufacturing space, we need to understand that what we are facing right now, first of all. Even before COVID-19 hit the global scenario, all the businesses were having a cutthroat competition in creating viable businesses across all geographies. And once the COVID-19 has hit, the main issue that is being faced is apart from the safety of all people, is the lack of demand. The viability of the business is all dependent on the demand that is there for their product or service. Now we are witnessing currently that how the business environment has become more and more competitive on the world stage. And the companies are trying to create and gain a competitive advantage over their competitions. Now the key question to be answered is that how do companies create this competitive advantages? And how does the procurement function helps the organizations in doing that? Now let's try and understand how does a business actually work. There are a lot of interrelated activities that a businesses do which help them create a value on its product and services. Now the ability of any business to efficiently manage these activities is how they create a profit and a competitive advantage in the market. Now, one of these key activities which we talk about is the procurement activity. And this procurement activity plays a very key role in saving money, time, and resources for any organization. And this is the philosophy that we also follow internally in Power to SME. We know that almost 70% of the recurring cost of a manufacturing unit is levied on raw material procurement. And thus, this proves to be an area for a lot of cost saving potential. A lot of money can be saved by SMEs if they bring efficiencies in this process. Now, according to a Greyhound Scud survey, which was commissioned by Power to SME, and we covered around 200 manufacturing businesses, 91% of the SMEs cited that raw material sourcing as the second biggest challenge after the challenge of access to finance. And Power to SME, through its NBFC arm, is focusing on the first challenge, and through its Power to SME and SME Shops portal is addressing the second challenge which they are facing. Now, efficiently, we have seen in Power to SME among a lot of customers that we support that efficiently run procurement processes help businesses in achieving a competitive advantage over others. And this helps them in achieving low cost and optimization of resources. When I say low cost is usually most of the time misunderstood as low price. So I would like to a little bit dwell on this. When I say low cost, usually you find that there has to be you can say sometimes that you might find a supplier giving you a price of a product X while a different supplier giving you X minus 2. In that case, usually the procurement manager may want to go for X minus 2, assuming that he is doing a good job by reducing the price of the raw material. But if that raw material is ultimately going into a production process and resulting into, let's say, an inferior quality product, which results into rejections in the finished goods, then he has not ultimately reduced the cost. He has, in fact, taken the cost higher because it has resulted into wastage of manpower, which is as such going to be very scarce going ahead. He has resulted into wastage of resources of sales and marketing, and he has resulted into a loss of face for the organization. So let's be very clear that low price doesn't mean low cost. Low price usually results into sometimes a higher cost for the organization. Now, what are the challenges that are being faced by the SMEs currently? Apart from the first one, where I said that the raw material sourcing, 91% of the SMEs spoke about raw material sourcing as the biggest challenge. The second challenge that most of the SMEs are facing is the lack of transparency in the entire transaction chain, which results into inefficiencies. the logistics being one of the key inefficiency that is created. A supplier is committing something to you as a delivery timeline, whereas the actual timeline that you are facing of that raw material reaching your plant is a different, which results into delays in the overall production process and ultimately in the realization of the price of the goods. Now, what do we need to do as SMEs to actually overcome all these challenges? One of the key things that you can do is leverage technology, which helps you build efficiencies in the whole process. Now, as we have seen internally also, that technology helps in information flow, which is very important for taking correct and on-time decisions. Technology, if used correctly, helps you in executing your differentiation strategy. It helps bring speed to your processes and help you transact faster and accurately. And it also helps you cut down on delays and errors. So technology as one is a very key differentiator. SMEs which are going to adapt technology going ahead in their overall processes are going to create key differentiators over their competitors. In this last 45, 60 days, what we have seen three scenarios playing out in the market. One is that the customers or our customers are completely shut down. They are into businesses where there is no demand. Auto sector. We cater to a lot of automobile OEMs as well as their tier 1 suppliers. Auto is one industry which is completely shut down for last 45 days and there is absolutely no production happening. That is one scenario which is playing out. The second scenario is playing out is that where your product is in such high demand that your procurement team is facing a challenge in fulfilling that demand. A similar kind of an example for that kind of a product can be seen in either you are into a FMCG product. Production of a FMCG product like biscuits, let's say. Now biscuits need to be packed. Now you need to do packaging of those biscuits in a food grade film. And that film is produced by a polymer. So that whole supply chain needs to be completely active for actually the finished product of a biscuit being supplied to the end consumer. Now the third scenario that is playing out is that the businesses are adapting themselves and converting to meet the current demands. Let's say a garment manufacturer. Let me take a case study, actual case study where one of our customers who is a garment manufacturer, he used to buy fabric from us. Now he saw the opportunity which was there in the market for production of PP kits. And he had the plant and machinery available. He had limited manpower available. And he immediately used that opportunity to shift his business from producing garments to producing PP kits. Now, how did the supply chain or the procurement team of that particular customer, or what challenges did they face? The procurement team had a clean or a very well-established supply chain for supply of fabric. Now, a PP kit requires a different kind of a fabric. Secondly, a PP kit also comprises of footwear, it also comprises of gloves, and it also comprises of masks. So now the procurement team didn't find or didn't have the ability at that point of time to find trustworthy suppliers for all the products. They were already buying fabric through Power to SME. And they came to us asking for, can you help us source these products? And at that point of time, the Power to SME team, with the help of the SME shops team also, since we were already supplying a lot of COVID products to our other customers and to other state bodies also, we were able to help that customer. So the point I'm trying to make is that the procurement team needs to be very agile in terms of finding the right product and the right supplier which is needed to fulfill their company's production demand. Going for a lesser price product is not always going to result into a low cost for the organization. So what is the conclusion for this process that is playing out? That effective procurement is one of the core ingredients to creating a successful business. So a lot of energy needs to be spent by the SME promoter in setting up clear processes for procurement. It's important to make sure that your process aligns with your company's specific needs and business goals. As I gave 3 examples recently that are playing out is, one, your demand has gone down. Your finished product demand has gone down. So that means your procurement team now should be aligned to keeping less inventories, procuring just in time, as well as their volumes of procurement are going to come down. Their negotiating power is going to go down. How they are going to adapt? If they were buying previously from a non-aggregator like a dealer, and if they come to an aggregator like Power to SME, which can pass on to them the benefit of aggregation, even if their raw material requirement has come down, it will still help them keep their raw material procurement cost in place in their targeted budgets. Secondly, that your business has suddenly seen a high demand for your finished product. In that case, also you need to see whether you need to keep some additional inventories now. Your business requirement for warehousing might go up because you need to stock more. Previously, you were probably running your plants at 60% of capacity or 70% of the capacity. Now you need to run your plant at 100% of the capacity. You have orders in hand, but do you have the raw material in place to fulfill those orders? So these are some key decisions that are going to play out with all the promoters of SME segment. The second is whether you have the finance available to scale up in case you are catering to a certain product which is high in demand. This is where our NBFC can also come in and help you, where we provide you multiple schemes under which you can do raw material procurement. Secondly, it's more important now for every SME to also eliminate waste. Previously, if waste generation was something that you are not looking at in your whole production process, now you need to look at more closely with that. And this will help you also increase or improve your efficiency in a very systematic process. Now, amid this COVID scenario, the manufacturing units ultimately need to plan their raw material requirement in a very stringent fashion. And they need to do this without the need to build large inventories. Because if they are building large inventories, then they are doing so by putting a pressure on their finances as well. So it has to be a very delicate balance which all the manufacturing SMEs now need to create between the procurement, the finances, and fulfilling the demand of their finished product in the market. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Sumit Bhatia ji. Thank you. Very, very practical insight of your experience and how the SMEs have to reorganize their operations post COVID-19. I think very good insights, very good inputs with regard to particularly cost versus low price. People have to be careful. Low price may not be necessarily the low cost because of the quality, inefficiency, delivery time, timelines, and all other factors involved in logistics and other issues. And your suggestion for technology leveraging to help the information flow and also to improve the speed and efficiency in decision making also is a very, very important suggestion. And of course, I am coming to you for a question also on that.
Yes, sir.
The availability of finance, as you rightly said, needs to be, for scaling up will be an issue. And as you rightly said, the balancing between, the need of the production utilization of production capacity to meet the orders, and then mobilizing resources for meeting those requirements will be a big, challenging, one has to do the balancing. So my specific question to you is, how do you compare the financing scenario pre-COVID-19 and post-COVID-19? Because earlier the financing was quite liberal, availability of finance for raw material, and it was two ways. Banks were also extending, suppliers were also extending credit, and
Yeah.
then we could also pass on the credit to some extent. But what is going to be the scenario now in future, as per your assessment?
Sir, this is my view in terms of personal views. This should not
Yeah.
be taken as power to SMEs views as
Yes,
of now.
please.
So I think it's going to get tough.
Yes.
It's going to be very difficult because a lot of businesses are going to be facing stress on their balance sheets.
Yes.
And lending is a function of how strong is your balance sheet.
Right.
So if there is stress, if there is drop in your turnovers, I don't know how flexible the banks are going to be in assessing the balance sheets going ahead. If they are going to go with the same techniques of 10% growth year on year or 15% growth and reserves the ratios, financial ratios to be maintained in the same manner which was pre-COVID, then SMEs, in fact, not only SMEs, a lot of corporates are even also going to find difficulty in getting funding available.
Yes. I think I fully agree with you. Your experience is, of course, very, very exhaustive in dealing with practically with all the, consumers as well as the other side of suppliers also. So you are in the middle of dealing with both sides, suppliers as well as, buyers. So I think none other than you can give a better perspective about the availability of, financial support and the credit facilities, availability of credit facilities, and as well as the credit particularly for the raw material and supply chain. I'll come back to you later. Let me have one question for Mr. Rajkiran. It's a very, important question which I ask everybody almost these days when I meet. And he is a very relevant person for asking this also, because he referred to the domestic procurement more in rising now in the time to come. So my question is, what role do you think the domestic supply chain can play in developing more sustainable and self-reliant consumption-based Indian economy in coming years? I mean, I'm taking it to your point that vis-a-vis the imports, how is the domestic supply chain going to be more helpful now and more sought after now post-COVID-19? Rajkiran, please.
Yeah, thank you. So, while we are focusing on the substitution piece with respect to imports and having domestic suppliers to fulfill that, as I mentioned, it's not going to be immediate, it's going to take time. And anybody who's going to look at this piece or this market will need time. And time is money, we all know that. So, anywhere within 6 months to a year, minimum you'll take to meet that substitution. So that's one of the challenges which is going to be there. In terms of what we are trying to do or what the logistics fraternity will do to enhance their part for meeting this, clarion call by the Prime Minister also, like be vocal, go local, is that we'll have to ensure that the costs are affordable for the SMEs. So they have access to all kind of services from all transporters, logistics practitioners, warehousing. That's very, very important. And that typically will happen through advent of technology and aggregation. Because a MSME on its own cannot, sort of be able to bear the cost completely. But if they all aggregate, and we also have ability to aggregate and have a technology piece, it's going to help to some way bring the cost down and ensure that the domestic supply chain gets the flip. So in our viewpoint, it's a game to be played. It's a journey. It is not the end right away. It will take a lot of patience, a lot of finance, as Sumit said, a lot of change of the supply chains also, and change. The biggest aspect is a change of the mindset that we can do what China has done in manufacturing, and we can be a able player in this segment. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of issues involved with this, developing the supply chain, domestic supply chain. It's not that easy that immediately after the lockdown opens and we start shifting from, other foreign supply chain to Indian supply chain just with the word go. I mean, it is going to take a lot of preparation. It is going to take a lot of policy changes. It is going to take a lot of incentivizing the industry to come up, and maybe it takes few years, maybe a couple of years or so, to gradually shift to the domestic supply chain system. So one question I have for Mr. Sumit Bhatia. Sumit
Yes,
ji,
sir.
you are there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So my point is, how is B2B commerce going to recalibrate post COVID-19? And what do you think is the scope for B2B commerce, whether it's going to increase or how it is going to be affected?
I think it is going to be more in demand now.
More in demand.
Yes. One important aspect for that is going to be the transparency with which it operates. The old supply chains or the old procurement process had a lot of inefficiencies in it. And those inefficiencies are now going to come out even more evidently out, because the pressure on every manufacturing setup will be to maintain their profits, at least, if not grow. And now to maintain those profits, all the owners, at least in the SME sector, are going to look at the complete value chain, and they are going to reduce cost in each and every aspect of their value chain. And in that case, whether it is logistics, whether it is procurement, whether it is just-in-time procurement, or whether it is warehousing, minimum warehousing, all these things is where the B2B commerce will come in hands down winner over the traditional supply chain of any manufacturing.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And Power to SME is, of course, ahead in these projects, because Power to SME has established its name in the country over a period of time, and already established a brand, in fact, all over the country in the SME space. And if B2B is going to, and naturally it has to, B2B commerce is having a great future, in fact, and all the best to you. In fact, you are spearheading the operations of the Power to SME. So
Thank you, sir.
You have a great future and good potential, in fact, to increase the business and go across the areas where still Power to SME is not reached. So with all these efforts, I think the company is going to make a big impact in the SME space in the market in the time to come. So we have some time now, in fact, to take questions from the participants. So Damini, are you ready with the questions? How many questions we have?
So we have a few questions.
Yeah, we can go one by one now.
Yeah. So Ms. Pratibha has, asked her question in 3 parts. The first one is, can the payment be made to workers, during the lockdown period? Can that be adjusted during the towards the GST payment?
Yeah, this is the first question, in fact, which I can answer, because I took this up with the government sometime back with the minister, Mr. Gadkari ji also, that if government is not ready to compensate the SMEs by way of providing funding for paying the salaries in cash, at least the government should provide ITC, input tax credit, in the GST, future GST payments, for the payments made to employees for the lockdown period. Well, all these suggestions were given. various, representations, I think hundreds of them were made to the Ministry of MSME, Ministry of Finance, even the Office of the Prime Minister, by how many associations, including all big chambers, CII, FICCI, PhD chamber, and individually by local industry associations. And this suggestion was also very prominently mentioned, because I remember I myself raised this point before. So they said all these suggestions are being now taken up with the Ministry of Finance, and they are coming up with a stimulus package. Whatever is feasible will be announced in the stimulus package. And you have seen the stimulus package has already been announced. There are 6 measures for the SME sector. These are basically related to bank financing and capacity building of the SMEs with regard to, like lending, guarantees, and equity, and subordinated debt, and change of definition. There is no such, direct reimbursement of the expenditure or input tax credit, which has been mentioned in the stimulus package announced until now. But let us not lose the hope. Things are, moving day by day. Changes are taking place. Let us hope. But this issue has already been flagged and taken up with the government. Next, Sudhamini.
The next part of her question is that she started her operations of her company in Pune with 33% manpower, but since orders are not in flow, they're planning ahead. However, the police permission for movement is an issue, and ideally it should come within hours of application, but it takes days through online. So I think a question over here is there any industry body working for fast track police permits?
Well, this issue also has been raised time and again by all the industry bodies. This is very much in the knowledge of the government, district authorities, enforcement agencies, state governments, all respective state governments. But you see, at each authority level, there are some discretions allowed as of now. So if one district is, not issuing passes in 2 hours, the others is maybe issuing in 1 hour, half an hour, or even instant. So this practice varies, in fact, from district to district based on the efficiency level and the technology involved and the people sitting behind. But the issue is already in the knowledge, and let us hope that another 2 days, 3 days, this pass system goes away. And in any case, the relaxations are going to be provided, more relaxations, and this is going to be opened up. But the issue has been raised by one and all. During the peak of the lockdown, even nothing was allowed, and people were facing so much of difficulty. You have seen, we all have seen, in fact, the problems in implementation of all these directives. So, Damini?
Yes, sir. The last part of her question is there any data available regarding offshore companies willing to start manufacturing in India? Because this can really help MSMEs for collaboration.
I can ask Mr. Rajkiran to respond to this in case he can. Any idea?
No, not to my knowledge, or we don't have any data point on this. Thank you.
In fact, Sumit, would you like to comment on this?
Sir, in terms of which companies, if I have understood, they want to know if there are any companies, international companies, who are looking to shift their base, manufacturing base into India. Correct?
Yeah.
So there is nothing of a single portal where something that is available for everyone to see and probably look at. It is only that we come to know is through our contacts or our customer base and supplier base only. Sometimes it is the international supplier base also that we have, who are also exploring opportunities to partner in India and to set up base in India. So there is no single portal where I think this kind of information is available.
Yes. Can I also invite Mr. L.K. Pandey? L.K. Pandey ji, Dr. Pandey, are you there? Can you hear me? Mr. Pandey, is he muted? Zumair, can you unmute him?
Sir, he can unmute himself at his own hand. I think
unable to.
Yeah, he's there.
There.
Okay.
Dr. Pandey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Good afternoon,
Yeah.
sir. How are you?
Welcome. Very nice to see you after some time.
Sir.
It's always pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you,
So the question is,
Yeah.
some participant has raised. I thought let me have your views also.
Mhm.
The question is whether the foreign companies, which of them and how many of them, if at all we know, are interested to come to India, and what is the arrangement that India is making to in fact invite those companies and provide facilities to them? Because a lot of companies are shifting base from China to other countries like Vietnam and like Indonesia and Malaysia and all those.
Yeah.
Any idea about this?
Yeah. So in general discussion, we find that some company are showing interest, and they are, impelled to get out of China. But then options are there. Many options are there before them, and you rightly said, Vietnam, Indonesia, and these are the countries which are more preferred. Number one. Number two, what I feel that still India has to do a lot to get such companies foothold here in India. Unless we have that kind of climate and ease of doing business, that bureaucracy kind of tag which we must have to set before we expect that such companies are going to come to India. But certainly they are looking India as a more sustainable geography to work upon. So this is my opinion.
Yes, surely. No, I agree. You are very practical, in fact. And the point that you made is that while many companies would prefer to come to India, for obvious reasons, of course, the strong democracy and freedom,
Stable government.
infrastructure, and all these facilities, availability of manpower, raw material, everything,
Yeah.
and of course the big demand in the country. But the complicated, procedures of entry and the bureaucratic inertia, the approvals process, all these things in fact dampen, and the tax laws, of course, the retrograde measures which are sometimes taken to. So that probably is one of the issues which the government has to take care and see that these measures are improved so that more and more large number of companies can be invited to the country. So Damini, do you have any other questions?
Yes, sir. So Mr.
Yeah.
Rajesh is asking if there is any information for extension of moratorium.
Well, 3 months more our moratorium has been extended in the stimulus package by the finance minister. So I think that is, I think that should be meeting his requirement. Probably he may not be aware. Earlier it was 3 months, starting from February, 1st March, 1st April, 1st May. Now 3 more months, 1st June, 1st July, 1st September, 1st August. So 3 more months moratorium has been extended as per the stimulus package. I think we should be happy. Beyond that, it is not there as of now. Maybe it comes later after the end of these 3 months.
Yeah. So the next question I have is that for the success of Make in India campaign, what policy support must be there from Government of India on the supply chain management point of view?
I think Mr. Rajkiran can answer this before I comment. I think he has some insight information if he can. What measures? Can you repeat the question for him? So Damini?
For the success of the Make in India campaign, what
Yes.
policy support must be there from Government of India from the supply chain management point of view?
Yes, supply chain management point of view. Because Make in India is a big program, so there are a lot of changes and improvements which can be done. But the specific point is from the supply chain point of view, what changes can be done in the Make in India to make it successful? So Rajkiran, I think you are the best person to answer.
Yeah, thank you. So There's only one word answer which I have is that the cost has to come down. And as already mentioned by Mr. Pandey, we have to have a ease of the entire chain. There's only one word each, ease and cost. Then you will be at a global level in terms of your competitiveness. Currently, give and take, we are saying that the logistics cost is around 13 to 14% of GDP. So that's going to be, hurting us much more post COVID when we open up, because we're going to live with COVID, not that post COVID is zero COVID. So when you're doing that and you're trying to, sort of rise from the ashes kind of a thing, we need the cost and the efficiency to be at its best. So if we are able to address that collectively, both, I know somehow we have all this tendency to put it on government, but with the private enterprise also has to do its bit, the MSCB has to do its bit, and the government, of course, will do its bit. So all the stakeholders put together should ensure cost and ease. If that's addressed, then Make in India will be a success. So these are the two important pillars on which we can ensure that the supply chain is much more robust to Make in India successful. Thank you.
Yes, I think that is very well articulated, and it goes, it can be connected with your earlier observation that as of now it is more of surface transport, road transport. Once it goes into multimodal, like you add more of railways and waterways, naturally the cost is also going to go down. The average
Right.
cost of, because road transport is costing the maximum. Rail and waterways is going to be cost much lesser. So ultimately, if more and more multimodal, is adopted, the cost also will come down. But the government has to take, measures very fast to do this, because otherwise the companies are going to go away to other countries. So Damini, any other question?
Yes, sir. There is one. How will competition between wholesale suppliers and small suppliers be after this lockdown?
How? Can you repeat?
What will be the competition between wholesale suppliers and small suppliers be like?
Okay, Mr. Sumit Bhatia, I think because he is the one who is dealing with the supplies and wholesale and retail.
Okay, so the main competition parameters between wholesale and small, I say, retail suppliers is pertaining to scale and to reach. The wholesale supplier obviously has more buying ability. He can buy in bulk compared to a small supplier who's going to buy in small quantities. And I don't see that changing even pre or post COVID. To some extent, the wholesale supply, because of demand, might come down and he might want to keep a little bit of a less quantity. But ultimately, the same effect will be there on both the small as well as the big. In terms of reach, the bigger supplier, if he's using digital as a medium to reach out to his customers, then obviously he's going to win more. But in terms of like these COVID, where we found that the bigger suppliers like Amazons and Flipkarts were also able to distribute, while a preference was given to the small businesses, the retailers, the nearby retailers, so that they were also able to sustain themselves. If government intervenes, then they might want to bring in a level playing field. I'm assuming the big suppliers or the wholesales, we are talking about large e-commerce companies. Otherwise, the scale and the reach, in both these cases, the big suppliers have an advantage. And to save the small suppliers, obviously government will have to provide some kind of incentives or policy changes to maintain a level playing field.
Very well. I think very well said. That is the need of the hour, because otherwise the small suppliers will not be able to survive in this competitive market, and might, create problems which will certainly affect the employment scenario in the country. So we have to protect that sector also by making suitable policy changes. So Damini, any other question?
No, sir, that's about it. Thank you.
So I think we have completed the questions. If any of my panelists would like to have any closing comments, you're welcome. Sumitji, anything that you want to add further, or Mr. Rajkaranji?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
So we come to the Sudhaji, anything that you would like to say?
No, sir.
Okay. So I can conclude now. We have discussed quite a lot about the post-COVID scenario with regard to reopening of the factories and businesses and the effect of COVID-19 lockdown on the MSME sector, particularly in the country. There have been certainly a lot of problems. People are really struggling, in fact, to come up to the terms because they are surprised, faced as to what has happened and how are they going to survive. The problem is lack of trust, as somebody mentioned, I think, Sumit Bhatia mentioned. People are in a very state of, uncertainty. How is it going to restart? Where is the labor? Half of the people have gone, and those who are available, they cannot complete the entire process of the manufacturing. So how are they going to train the people? So youth people, recruit more people. So manpower becomes one issue. Raw material availability becomes another issue. Credit becomes another issue because banks' outstanding credit limits are also full. They have availed all that, whatever was left out over the last 2 months in meeting the liabilities and paying salaries and meeting taxes and other things. On the top of that, the liabilities of outsiders, rent, electricity are continuing. Then, issue of compliances. A lot of compliances with regard to not only the regular filing of returns, whether GST or corporates or other taxation returns or company law or labor issues and all that, but also compliances with regard to opening of the factories, restarting the operations. That is COVID-19 related compliances about sanitization requirement and about keeping the distances, resetting the whole office environment or the factory layout. I mean, it's very difficult to, change the layout of the factory. I mean, if people are four people are working on one machine, how can you expect that 4 people will maintain the distance in working on that machine? So it means if they maintain the distance and only one person operates, the machine cannot work. Either it cannot work or it can work only at 25% capacity. And with 25% capacity or even 50% capacity, we all know very well that break-even levels cannot be achieved in any factory at 50% utilization. It has to be somewhere 70, 80, 90%. There are not so much of profits available that even if you work at 50%, you're going to achieve break-even, not only break-even, but even profitability for yourself. So this is a temporary time, which is and of course uncertainty, which is creating stress in the minds of the SME sector. And on the top of that, the problem of liquidity, the problem of labor issues, all this is causing a lot of stress. And most of the people are, I talk to, they say we are sitting at home. As long as we are sitting at home, we are comfortable. Let us not bother about what is going to happen. But they want to avoid that kind of a situation where they land into a, environment where they are struggling to survive and run the. Let us hope that with the fourth lockdown, things will improve. More permissions and more relaxations will be granted, so that people don't have to struggle for these passes and movements and logistics issues, movement of trucks, materials, essential, non-essential, and labor movement, opening timing and all that. Although some timing has been fixed, as Ms. Sareen mentioned, 9 o'clock, I think up to 9 o'clock, 9 to 5 probably is banned in the night. As for the daily recommendations is concerned. Let us see what happens. Hopefully, even if some restrictions are imposed for the fourth lockdown, but it cannot be done indefinitely. It has to be limited to certain period, maybe a week, 10 days, or maybe 2 weeks more or something, or 3 weeks more. But gradually it has to be lifted, because you can't work with 50% employees, with less, manpower, with less opening hours, with less working hours, with all these restrictions. So let us hope. Now, since some package has been announced by the government and banks are also been directed to provide more liquidity, things are going to improve. Labor also, I think, might come back because the cultivation season is over now. I mean, I expect maybe another 2 to 4 weeks for the things to gradually shifting to the normalcy. And in any case, by 1 month, after 1 month, it has to come to normal. But at the end of the day, what we see is that this year will go in, most of the companies will go difficulty, might be facing losses, but nothing can be done in this. It is the best thing is to retrieve whatever is possible now during the remaining period. One thought is that people will bounce back immediately because the demand will pick up immediately because they have been sitting at home without any buying being done, and they have saved a lot of money, particularly the salaried employees and the government people and those who have fixed incomes. So I don't know what way it goes. Hopefully, let us hope that the things go in a positive way, demand immediately picks up and the relaxations are also granted and the normalcy restores. So we had very good deliberations. Power to SME is in fact has organized these programs. I think it is almost a series of programs on different subjects. Thanks to Ms. Sudha Sareen, who has been in fact the person behind organizing all these events. She is the in fact I could say producer of these programs and gives all the advice as to how to conduct and how to organize. So thank you, Sudhaji. Thanks a lot. Let us continue this series because this is the way that we can interact and we can exchange with the industry and get the feedback. So let me also thank our distinguished speakers for today. Sumit Bhatia, Senior Vice President, Power to SME, he has given an insight, very practical, in fact, feedback and the advice to the SMEs as to how to restart and what precautions they should take in restarting the operations, and some quick tips in fact with regard to efficiency and technology adoption and financing issues. So thank you, Sumitji. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And of course, Mr. Rajkiran Kangala, the Group Head of Business Development, TCI. Very practical experience for the logistics and movement of supply chain, etc. We have had insight into these issues because normally these things are kept aside. Although they are very important, it has very substantial cost in the entire supply chain and cost of production. But then very few people are aware about this. We have one member in our PhD, Agarwal Packers and Movers. When we listen to him, in fact, the similar views are expressed by him because they are the people who are handling the supply chain and these, transportation and other issues in the country. So thank you, Mr. Rajkiranji, and also thanks to Dr. L.K. Pandey and other distinguished participants from IIA Ghaziabad, Noida, Greater Noida, and Mr. Ajay Singh, Director IIA Delhi, and my colleagues, SME, Mr. Zumair and Ms. Sodamini, who have been doing a back-the-scene job for putting these programs together, and also making arrangements, inviting people, and all other things that they are doing. So thank you, Zumair. Thank you, Sodamini. And lastly, all my thanks to the participants, in fact, for participating and sharing their views in the program. So thank you all. Over to you, Zumair.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Thank you, Mr. Rajkiran, Sumit sir, Dr. Pandey, Sudha ma'am. Thank you everyone for joining. And that's all. Good evening.
Thank you.